There's so many things that I was just so deeply insecure about when I was a teenager that now I'm just like, yeah, that's who I am. Oh yeah, I can be indecisive. That's not the end of the world. And now I can just adjust.
Self-care is a lot like car care. You aren't just going to be nice to your car and just be with it. Like, you need to put the work in, change the oil.
You know, my mom was always like, cut things down on a cutting board and never lift it up. And I'm like, Mom, it's fat. I don't know what to do. And like now here, a long time later, I like sliced my thumb clean open. I was like, oh, this is what she meant with the, I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah, because in high school, they're like, you have a flaw. You can't admit that. You're a loser.
You mean people talk to y'all in high school? That's dope.
Welcome back to the Smoshcast, everybody. We got good stuff today. Welcome. It is 75 degrees. No, it's not.
Yeah, welcome back to 98.7 The Sturge. We got a new kind of sound for you today.
Welcome back to Hardcore Smosh. Smosh, but hardcore. We're talking about the history of Smosh and its hardcore nature.
Oh, that's what we're talking about.
We do a radio lab one. You're watching. You're watching.
That's entirely
okay, is this
possible.
on?
That's entirely possible.
You're listening to 97 The Bird in the morning. in the morning.
You're
Poppy, I love you. Woo! Did you guys ever listen to Big Boy's Neighborhood?
What?
It was on Power 106, or it used to be on Power 106.
No.
But it was that morning show where it'd be like Big Boy's Neighborhood, and everyone would be like, woo, and you hear the cowbell like ding ding ding, like it was the only morning show I listened to.
Dude, all those noises.
I do miss those. I don't listen to the radio, but I do miss the like. It's Bean and Ballsack in the morning.
So Bean, I've been looking at this thing. These kids are on a talk. You looking at this?
You the talk.
Talk.
That's pretty crazy.
I had this sketch I wanted to do forever ago where it's like the DJ does more of his sounds for his own name than actual music. So it's like, welcome to DJ Floppy Boy, DJ Floppy Boy,
I remember DJ
Floppy Boy.
There's one in Los Angeles that actually does do that on the radio. It's obnoxious. I'm calling it out. You know what? I'm not going to call out the name because people probably know this person. But let's say their name is Poopy. And it literally in the middle of a song, you'll hear Ariana Grande singing. And all of a sudden in the middle, you'll just hear a voice go, Poopy. Like in the middle of a song, like 3 times.
How they ruin songs by just putting their stuff in the middle of it.
But they're not even doing DJ stuff. It's literally like someone whispering their voice like,
Mike Will.
Poopy. Poopy.
Weird.
It's a radio person. They didn't even make the song.
Oh, that's stupid.
So
I think I've
anyways.
heard that.
Anyways, welcome to the Smoshcast, you crazy
Yeah, welcome
sons
back.
of bitches. It's the Smoshcast, and it's me, your host, Shane Top. I'm
Shania
here with some
Top.
special guests, Courtney Miller
Hi. Welcome back.
and Damian Howes.
Hey everyone, I'm Damon Hound. I'm a 3/4 way through a sugar-free Red Bull. Yeah, dude, you did a pretty good job.
That's my favorite new voice that you
It makes me very happy that y'all like that.
Literally in Australia, we were at the beach, and you just started talking like that.
Pretty windy day today.
For those at home, you have to talk by only you kind of like breathe out as you talk. Like
It's kind of like a laugh cough.
yeah, like you cough all your words.
I have menstrual cramps.
Yeah. Not mental cramps today.
Really quick, I want to take a second. Damien,
Yeah, what's up, Gene?
I listened to the podcast from last week.
Oh, what'd you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that
thought
you
so
and
too.
Iffy are now best friends.
Well, Shane, I had listened to your podcast maybe a month prior.
Oh,
Richard Pryor. No. Where you and Jackie became such good friends.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're the type of person that expects me to wait around for you forever, but I had to move on.
Okay, that's fair. I think listeners can listen to those podcasts and determine.
Listeners can listen. Good job, Shania.
Yes, stupid.
That was pretty good.
I burped in your ears.
That's fine. You know what? We're all best friends.
Great.
I think that's fine.
Courtney, batter up.
Who's my new best friend?
It's me.
It's you?
Yeah.
I thought you have Iffy.
Nah, Iffy's old news.
That's last week's shit. We've moved on.
That's that old.
Guys, today we're talking about being an adult. We're talking about growing up.
Talking about adultery.
Yeah.
We're talking about affairs. We're talking about what it's like being an adult, how to become an adult, how we're doing as adults. And we took a bunch of questions from listeners on any concerns about being an adult. And it's tough, man. It's especially tough in 2020. I think
Yeah.
2020 has made being an adult, being a person, significantly more challenging.
Yeah.
Well, I think every
Everybody.
generation has its own hardships when it comes to adulthood. This just happens to be ours. It's a weird sense of isolation that hasn't been felt before,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, we're not going to get drafted to go to Nam, but you got to stay home forever and never
Yeah.
talk to a person.
Right.
weird.
That's true. It's tough to know exactly what. I mean, you can know to a certain degree, but it's tough to know what life was like for our parents and stuff when they were our age, because all we have is their memories to really talk about it. Whereas now we've got so much social media like evidence of stuff being talked about. You can't go back and look at social media from back then. Like you
Yeah.
I just hear what my parents said they thought it was like back then.
And I feel like some parents and children, or parents and their kids, the relationship like isn't in a place all the time where they'll just like tell you a lot about their life. Like for me, I didn't learn a lot about my parents' personal lives when they're younger. Like I have to know to ask, and like when you're younger, you don't know what to ask, and so when you don't know what to learn, like
It's also tough because like I think about when I'm in my 50s and stuff, and my children or grandchildren ask me about when I was younger, I'm probably gonna leave things out, not out of like trying to sugarcoat things, but just out of like pure just like embarrassment maybe. Like my biggest like failures are like just
Yeah.
dumb stuff. You're just not going to tell them because it also feels like inappropriate to tell them that stuff.
Well, it's
you
also
know?
hard to like think about it full scale, like everything. Like you're gonna leave stuff out by mistake. Kids are gonna be like, "What were Heelys?" And I'm like, "Oh, I never even mentioned Heelys to you because I didn't think about it." Like
Yeah.
COVID might be that for us in a
Right.
decade or so. Or God, I don't want to have kids too soon.
It's also tough because inevitably, and this is a thing in psychology, is you do look back fondly on the past because your brain naturally will filter out a lot of negative, boring things. Not always like the worst things you'll probably remember, but a lot of just the mundane things you'll remove. So like it's like how I already look back on So Random, and I'm like, God, what an amazing time. But I knew there were days on So Random where we were just bored or
Yeah.
just not having a great
Or
time. Like,
exhausted, or I
it
had a
wasn't-
costume that cut
it-
off my circulation.
yeah,
you know?
it wasn't but it's so easy to look back on 10 years ago, and especially in the future, like to look back 30 years and just go, oh man, see, things were easier back. It's like, no, it wasn't necessarily. Like,
Sure.
And that's why every generation looks down on the young generation and goes, man, this generation's going to hell. And it's
Yeah.
just like every generation does that. And I'm trying to remember, I'm not going to do that because
You'll do it.
you'll do it.
No,
You'll do it.
I swear I'm not going to do it. And I'll tell you what.
You already shop at Tommy Bahama. You're so close to becoming that dude.
Me and my Hawaiian shirt and khaki shorts. I had a Lyft driver once who really, I admired this guy, and I was like, this is who I want to be like. He was probably in his early 70s, maybe late 60s. And I was asking him like, why are you a Lyft driver? Because he said like he's retired, he's got plenty of money, he has a nice house. And he's like, I love talking to people. And he's just like, people my age, they really look down on millennials and these younger generations. But I'll tell you what, driving these people, these young people are so smart and they're so great. And he's just like, I'm learning so much from them. And I was just like, that's so cool. I was like, this guy, and there was like a liveliness and a youth to this guy.
That's awesome.
Because I'm like, you are still actively learning. And I'm like, by saying the younger generations are crappy and going to hell and stuff, means your generation failed at raising them. And I'm like, don't you want to like admit
You
like,
guys gave us
wow,
the participation trophies and then made fun of us for it.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. I'm like, don't you want to like? It's what blows me away this year with so many parents being mad at their kids for their kids disagreeing with them. And I'm like, don't you want to believe that your kid became an adult who was smarter than you?
Yeah.
I hope when I have a kid and they turn 18, I'm like, I hope I now get to go. You know what? I'm learning from you. I raised you. I gave you all the tools. Hopefully, you're now super smart and wiser than me.
I think it's also safe to say there's no mission complete in becoming an adult.
For sure.
There's no mission complete in a lot of self-improving. So even when someone is like, it's great that Uber driver was just still willing to learn. Like you didn't, even when I was 13, I thought I had it all figured out. So no, you're far from it. And you I think it's good to always understand that you aren't done.
No,
growing
you're
up.
never done.
Totally.
You're always a student.
What I'm stoked about is like the lighter side of that, where like look at our generation right now. Toys, games, they used to be viewed as kid things. Now we're mid to late 20s, and we're still just like, oh, there's a new Pokemon coming out. I understand it's not necessarily for me. They make it with kids in mind, but I'm stoked for that. I'm excited for this generation to get old and be that late 60s, early 70s, and like be a Lyft driver or whatever we've got then, and then like two younger people in the background having their version of like a Pokemon card battle and be like, yo, you guys collect Pokemon cards? Like, you guys want to trade while I drive?
Dude, no, that's one of
Like,
my life
I'm
goals.
stoked.
That's one of my goals is to school my grandchildren at video games.
Be like,
Yes.
what's this game? Smash Bros? I guess I'll try it for the first time.
Already I got my work cut out for me because I think my niece is getting really good at Mario Kart.
Dude, you gotta stop her.
Oh, I
And
love
I'm-
Mario Kart.
She's getting good already. I
You
think.
gotta stop. You gotta
I
lie to
gotta-
her or something. Gotta start early if
That's
you want to
so
win,
fun.
man.
So let's get into these questions.
Yeah.
Today we are going to be your parents, and we are going to be because
We're your dad.
Okay.
Kevin. Okay.
Okay, so we're already getting into it. We've got some questions here, and I really like this first question. At Ring Tarnish asks, how do I learn to be independent on decisions? It's becoming harder to make decisions for myself without having a second opinion or feeling guilty because I think I did something selfish. Man, that's
Ooh.
good. And
I
that's
like
good
that
for this.
one.
That's good for
That's
this
good
crowd.
for this crew for sure.
Yeah.
I can start off with some stuff if
Do
that's
it.
cool.
Go for it.
I had to practice learning how to fail and knowing that every decision isn't going to lead to something perfect. You figure something out on your own, you stick to it, and you don't second guess your instincts necessarily. Like I remember when we were roommates, anytime I was texting a girl, I would literally come to you and be like, hey man, does this sound okay? And it would literally be like, hey, thinking about you, how's your day? And I'd be like, is this good? Or should I, what should I say? Should I bring up that thing that she said 2 weeks ago? Like, and I would do that for every text, and I didn't know how to have a conversation without some help. And eventually it had to be like, hey man, if you're not going to be able to talk to this girl on your own anyway, maybe it's not supposed to be a thing. It's okay to quote unquote fail.
It reminds me of that SpongeBob scene where he writes he's writing a letter and he writes furiously for like a whole minute and it just says
Yeah. Did you know they changed that episode, by the way?
No.
He had like an acid trip in the original, basically, where like things were coming out of the woodwork in his house, freaking him out. Now they completely changed it to him looking outside and seeing his friends play because they got too scared
wow.
for the kids. Sorry,
That's like being an
segue.
adult. Courtney, how do you feel about decision making?
I actually struggle with it a lot sometimes, especially when it's like I have to decide between two like equally fine things. Especially even lately when I'm directing videos, like our DP Brandon will be like, "Well, we could do this shot, or like we have this other shot option." I'll be like, I literally feel like I'm a horse with blinds on, and I'm expecting to be able to be led to the right decision, and I just don't know where to go. I don't know what gender this person identifies as, but I know that sometimes I feel like I kind of grew up not fully being able to trust my own opinion on things because you always expect someone else in the room to interject and either confirm or completely deny your opinion. I also think that your opinion has value, and I understand, like, sometimes I am afraid to make a decision because I want so badly to please the other people in the room and make everyone happy with my decision. But in that, I'm kind of like not thinking about myself as much. I honestly struggle with this a lot. Like, I still haven't figured it out.
Sure.
It's a constant struggle. I think
Like you said, there's no mission complete, even with that.
this is definitely something that you keep working on your entire life. And, you know, the fact that you're already worrying about being selfish means you're probably I can't say never, but you're not going to be because you're considering it so heavily. I think it's about knowing, like, really listening to yourself, going, well, this is what I'm feeling. Am I holding myself back because I feel others would disagree? And I think it's also important to always be open to other people's opinions, to
Yeah.
really listen to them, but to not let them live your life and decide your mindset while also simultaneously not going, screw other people and what they think, you know, because we see so much of that. We see that. I think we do see that in a lot of older generations. And I mean, young generations too. I mean, there's people like that. And it's not good to cut everyone off. But at the same time, you have to make your
It's
own
okay to
decisions.
give yourself like a little taste of that. Like, you know, sit down and flip it on yourself. Think about, is everybody else that you know more qualified to make that decision? Why are they more qualified than you? Well, if they're not, then maybe you do know what you need to do. And actually what I used to do in my early 20s especially, I used to flip a coin and be like, all right, if I'm not qualified to make this decision and I truly don't know what to do, I will flip a coin and go with it no matter what. And I was like, I will leave this decision up to chaos. If I can't make this decision, then I leave it up to chaos.
And often
I would do it.
Often flipping a coin will just reveal how you feel about it.
Yeah.
You flip a coin, you go, okay, do I want to go do this thing? Heads, I go do it. Tails, I don't. Flip it, it's tails, and you're like, well, I feel like I kind of want to. And it's like, okay, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do.
That's true.
I will say one thing that I do when I'm like having trouble trying to decide between two things is trying to picture literally like how that decision will affect me down the road, or like what are the worst case scenarios or best case scenarios of that. See, I'm very much an overthinker, as you can see, but thinking of the best case and worst case for each of those decisions, and which costs more to me emotionally.
Sometimes it really comes down to, because no amount of thinking is going to maybe make your decision at a certain point. And sometimes it just comes to, well, here's what I'm going to do. And you know what? It could go bad. It could go well, but I'm doing it. And you just got to start working on that muscle of just doing it.
Yep.
So often, because I am the most overthinky it can get. And a lot of times it comes down to just doing it. You just do it. It's as simple as that. And I can't remember where this quote came from, but it's one of my favorites. Is someone was talking about like, you don't need motivation. There's this idea that it's like, well, I got to build up the motivation to do it. It's like, man, you're looking for another, that's an excuse, is that you need that motivation. Sometimes you just got to do it. Maybe you don't have the motivation. Maybe you don't have the thing thought out and you're never going to think it out enough. Just go do it. No one's going to give you the answer.
There's a lot of concepts like that are made up, like motivation, closure, all those things. Like start looking at things in your life that might just kind of be made up.
Most of those things are honestly just, they're a concept in your own head. Yeah. They just, you're making that up. There is action and there is the reality. I think sometimes with those, when you're having trouble making decision, sometimes it's just about grounding yourself, taking a deep breath, looking around the room, going, here's where I'm at. All right, let's just do this. Just go. And man, it doesn't get easier. It doesn't really get easier.
But also, I think one thing that gets easier is like for me, if I'm in between two tough decisions and like I feel really anxious because I'm like worried I'm going to make the wrong choice, confiding that in the people that you're close with can be very helpful. You're like, hey, listen, I can't choose what's going on right now. Like, it makes me really anxious. Like, then I'm going to not pick the right thing. Like, can you help me out? Like, that's totally okay.
Totally. It's okay to lean on people sometimes. Just if you don't have the ability to ever make a decision for yourself, then practice it. And I think that's it.
Yeah. You know, actually, on that, I will say I was in a what does get easier is kind of what you were saying is, as you get older, I do think a lot of things get easier because you start to just recognize and accept so many aspects of yourself that you're uncomfortable with when you're a teenager and younger. There's so many things that I was just so deeply insecure about when I was a teenager that now I'm just like, yeah, that's who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, like I used to hate that I was indecisive and I wouldn't admit that. And I would be like, oh yeah, I'm not, and now I'm just like, oh yeah, I can be indecisive. Oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the end of the world. And now I can just adjust.
Yeah, because in high school, they're like, you have a flaw. You can't admit that. You're a loser.
No, you just...
You mean people talk to y'all in high school? That's dope.
I think we can move on.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's about covered it.
Our next question comes from
Drill.
oh God, my favorite Twitter account. At Woodland Unicorn asks, I hate talking on the phone at all, but especially if it's with someone that like isn't my mom. LMAO, it's at the point where I can't even apply to a job because phone calls are part of it. So any advice on that mess? LMAO.
Oh my gosh.
LMAO.
Somebody go.
Talking on the phone sucks. Let's be honest. There was a tweet that was just like, I like how we invented the phone, used it for a while, and then when text came back, it's like, you know what? Let's go back to the written word.
Oh my God.
I can't wait for the little hashes and dots. Can't wait for us to go back to Morse code. I don't know.
Go for it.
No, you go for it.
I just gotta say, I've never felt, maybe I felt it for a little bit in the beginning of like growing up, of like being anxious of talking to strangers on the phone, but I love it. I actually love like the opportunity to talk to people who are either, it's like the nurse at a front desk and stuff. When I was a senior in high school, I had like an extra period where I would sit in the office and answer phones. I think that was my first experience. And then when I worked at the pharmacy, it was my job to call every single patient and let them know their prescription was ready. Sometimes I was just leaving messages. I just found it as like great practice. Every conversation with somebody you don't know in a way is just practice for the next one. They are people, granted, so be nice to them. But the fact that you may never meet this person or talk to them ever again, really rest on that. Because like when I have these phone conversations, or I'm like about to talk to someone who probably gets hundreds of calls a day, probably deals with not the nicest people, I have an opportunity. I need some information, but I can also be nice to this person and like make their day a little bit better by just being a nice customer on the phone. And then it's just a good experience of just talking to a stranger. You need information. It's their job to give it to you. Like, I think, I don't know. It's just something to think about, to change your mindset on it.
I used to work customer support for a larger streaming service. It was really tough. I was very anxious the whole time, but I was good at it. I was good with, chatting with people and fixing their problems. And I think looking at it now, what may be applicable to what you need to do is have a goal in mind, whether it's something as simple as I need a doctor's appointment, and take away the societal pressure of like, you don't need, obviously be very nice to the person if you can, but you don't need them to walk away from the conversation being like, that conversation changed my life. It's like they're doing their job. So you can literally be like, hi, my name is da-da-da. I need an appointment. These are the days available. I choose this day. Thank you, goodbye. Like, that's it. And then you can build from there. But, and the same with customer support. Like, my goal is always to get something fixed. But that in that, because I used to work customer support, my goal as a customer now is to make sure that this is the nicest call they've had today. That's the goal. They're like, hi, I'm Amanda. Can I help you? I'm just like, Amanda, thank you so much. I hope you're having a good day. Amanda, here's my problem. And, say their name back to them. Like, make it personal. Make it human.
Yeah.
It really is almost just like practice for talking to people you don't know, because it's just like phone calls with people who that's their job, is to just talk to you on the phone, and you can just.
It's also important to remember how insane most of the people they probably talk to every day.
Oh, yeah.
Like the amount of stuff they deal with. Dude, that they're not gonna remember you at the end of the day. Like, they're just not, because they have 1,000 phone calls a day. They're just not. No one is gonna have a phone call with you and then get off and be like, well, everybody, listen to this that I just talked to you. But also, I don't know where this dislike of phone calls is coming from. If you just generally dislike them, or if there's anxiety, once again, you just do it. Like you got to apply to a job, you just got to do it. You just call them, and like, they're not going to like make fun of you. It's not going to be some big deal. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You just do it. You just literally have to do it. I was talking to my therapist about my fear of emails, which is very similar. I get so afraid if my emails pile up, I get afraid to look at it. I literally avoid my inbox because I'm just so afraid there's some big thing I missed.
That's what I do with mail.
And I'm like, I do the same with mail. Like, I'm just always assuming the worst. I do the same with phone calls. I do it. I'm afraid of this insane worst thing. And, every time I do it, it's just not bad. It's an
what
exchange
if is
of
often worse than reality.
It's just an exchange of information, and if the worst happens, you just do it. It's not going to be some crazy nightmare fueled thing. It's going to be just, you have to put down some information or get some information or have a phone call or whatever.
I do want to hop on what you said about how they probably deal with way worse people. As someone who used to work customer support, we do. If your phone call is like 6 degrees off of normal, you're still doing way better than most people. There's so much weirdness or difficulty, or in general. Like, this isn't even like a bad one that this was this person's fault. It was just like one call I had was, and I could do a whole podcast about customer support days, but one call I had was this person who was just like, hi, I'm paralyzed from the neck down. I just had surgery and maybe like a stroke or something. So they're like, I'm having to use speech software and also look at these things in order to like type in a password, and I can't get into my account. Can you get me into my account? Aww. And I was like, for sure, man, let's do this.
Oh my God.
And it took like a literal hour, and I was supposed to take like 14 calls an hour. I was on this one for like an hour, and that's obviously not his fault, and I was happy to work with him and get that taken care of. But my point is, that was a very challenging process. You are going to be doing okay.
But at the same time, just like that, it's just like, that guy knew. He's just like, well, I got to do this.
Yep.
Like, and he did it.
Yep.
And he got through it and
Yeah.
he did it.
And picturing also like what's the worst case scenario of what that phone call is going to be? What are you anxious about? I mean, the other day I was trying to find a doctor to just get an appointment because I've been dealing with some I call and I was like, "Hey, I was wondering if I can get an appointment with this doctor. I'm dealing with this thing." And the lady was like, "This doctor looks at tumors." I was like, "Oh," like I was looking for somebody about my upset stomach. And she's like, "This person looks at tumors. They're an ophthalmologist or like something ophthalmologist. Why are you calling here?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know. I saw that he worked in internal medicine, so I didn't know if maybe that applied." She's like, "No, that's not it at all." I was like, "Okay, bye." She's like, "Goodbye." that sucked. But I think that's about as worse as it can get.
But I think they're not mad. Probably it's just that, like Damien said, they've gotten to the point where they just deliver the information. Yeah. They're just going, no, they don't do that.
And maybe they're weird too. Like sometimes
maybe it was a weirdo.
It was an angry lady. It was, but
I believe that though too. I've met a lot of people like that. I have a doctor that I love, but sometimes when I call to make an appointment, I'm like, "Hi, I would like to make an appointment for Doctor Last Name," and they're like, "Is that Doctor First Name, Last Name?" And I'm like, "Yes." There's no other doctor with that last name in the practice. So like they always clarify. I'm like, that's weird. That's super flippin' weird that you do that all the time.
You don't know.
Yeah.
They're like, what if suddenly the another one shows up? What do we do then?
You never. They're everywhere. No, I look in the building. I've looked before at the directory. I'm like, are they on like the 5th floor? Is there another? There's never been another.
Oh my god.
So it's just like they're weird. That's a really weird thing that you just did there.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Ma'am. So
those mundane little things like phone calls and everything are honestly, they're always just annoying and tough. You just got to do it, dude. Applying for jobs
The
is
more
also
you do it,
scary.
the easier it'll be. And I will say, like, I think with calling for jobs and stuff, I don't know where this person's from, but like growing up applying for jobs, I learned that when you put in an application, if you call in a couple days later or a day or two later, it makes a huge difference. Some companies look for that. They look for that initiative that you want this job. So calling in and just being like, "Hi, my name is this. I submitted an application a couple days ago. And I just wanted to see if you guys were still interested in getting together for an interview." Like something like that.
Or go in
goes a
person.
long way.
Or do it in person, even if you feel like you're better in person. Like last retail job I had, I went in person to apply, and I was like, "Hey, is the manager here? I'd love to like meet them. I'm going to submit an application. I just wanted to say hi and introduce myself." And the assistant manager was like, "No, she's not going to be here for a while, but do you have 15 minutes? Come on back. I see something in you." Like he was a very eccentric man, but I got hired. It was great.
That's so funny.
On the tip of just job applications, I've applied for countless jobs being an actor, just auditioning. And auditioning sucks because you're being judged on absolutely everything.
And it's face to face.
And also I was 14. Like you're a 14-year-old who's nervous about their acne and everything. And then you're going in knowing that this room of adults is judging you for it, like literally. And may even point it out. But I had an acting coach say probably the best advice, and so because someone was doing a scene and they were kind of like clearly nervous and just like not getting the scene done right, and he's just like, "You're focusing so hard on avoiding it going wrong. You're trying to avoid failure more than you're focused on doing what you want and getting what you want. Focus on what you want. You know what? Address what could go wrong. Be like, oh, that could go wrong. I'm gonna focus on what I want. That's my number one thing. I want this job. Why do I want this job? For all these reasons. That's what I'm going to focus. That's all I'm going to think about. Or that's consciously, I'm going to make the effort to only think about
it definitely drives
I'm not
you
going to
more.
think about what can go wrong. I'm not going to make that my primary focus. Because then your brain kind of does gravitate towards what you're thinking about. Think about what you want.
Please, you should credit Oprah when you quote her. That's the secret right there.
That's a secret right there.
That's a secret right there. That's a secret right there.
We're just slowly becoming Banjo-Kazooie characters. This next question comes from
Obama.
at Obama. At Calais Dokai. How do you get everything done you're supposed work-wise and still do other things like self-care and making time to hang out with friends without it negatively affecting the quality of your work?
Work-life balance.
Like I want what I put out to the best it, if possible, can be, but I also need to human. Okay, so work-life balance.
Work-life balance.
How do you have time to do work also have time for self-care and hanging out with friends, having a good time while that not affecting your work? That's a good question, especially because it feels like life only gets busier and busier and busier.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Yeah.
Because damn.
You know what frustrates me? I think about this a lot is I'm just like, man, humanity has invented so many devices that with the purpose of making life easier, and it only seems to make our lives busier.
Well, it just means you can get more done using it. It's not like you have suddenly more time in the day. It's just you're more efficient with we don't have to go out and gather mushrooms to take care of food for the village.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's
the ultimate human error, I think, is that it's like, oh, we invented computers. Now life should be easier for all of us. Like, no, now we can all do more work. Like that's how we go.
it's efficiency. That's all it is.
Now, if you're in
Yeah.
the shower when you get an email and you don't respond right away, boy,
Dude, for
that's
real.
That's
like
true.
the uplifted communication has only made it that it's like, oh, you're driving? Well, you need to still be answering emails
Yeah.
and checking texts because you could be missing something huge. It's like, I remember when I was 12, I sound like an old person, but I'm like, when I was 12, I didn't have a cell phone. I would go out and it's just like, well, I don't know if my parents need me, but I'm out and I'm not going to be home until tonight.
I'd love to tackle this topic a little bit because I am dealing with this myself right now. I'm having a hard time dealing with it too, so I'm learning this as I go. So point being, you're never like done, like you said. I learned it, but I've got Smosh, which is a regular sort of like 9 to 5 kind of situation, whether we're at home writing or we're out filming. I do my Twitch streams 3 days a week. I do voiceover, which is sometimes like 3 or 4 auditions per night. And then I like wake up early to edit it to submit it by 9 in the morning. I have a very hard time learning how to relax anymore. Like yesterday, I wasn't in the stream because I was like, hey, I've been a little busy lately. I would just love a break. But during the 2 to 3 hours that you guys streamed, I just sat there being anxious the whole time. I was like, I don't know how to relax. So the thing that has been helping me is, and I know this sounds like it takes a little bit of the fun out of it, you got to schedule everything. You got to write it down. You got to literally write down, even if it seems obvious and mundane. I've got work from these hours. After work, I've got to get this thing done. I'm going to give myself 1 hour to do it. After that, no matter what, uninterrupted, I want 90 minutes of me time. That's enough time to watch my show, do a little exercise, play a video game, like whatever you want to do. Because we are taught that work is the most important thing. And I don't think I will ever break that mindset for myself, unfortunately. But you have to acknowledge that self-care and giving yourself time and to socialize or just even do nothing and relax, that is equally, if not more important to you as a human being. You need to. In the same way that you'd be like, I have to eat today. You have to have some time to decompress. So to not let it affect the quality of your work, just do the most like bullish, gung-ho, best job you can during the time that you've allotted. And if you can't get the thing done in the time that you've allotted, well, then maybe you've bitten off a little bit more than you can chew.
Yeah, I will say, like, I do have a planner that I'll use sometimes. Like the night before, I will, just for myself, because I feel like I have a hard time focusing and remembering that I do have stuff to do. So the night before, I'll write down, like, my Google Calendar has the meetings we have to do that day. And then I'll also write down the chores that need to be done. And then if I have a workout that I want to do, here's what I should do. And then also at the top, we'll just be like, hey, have like a good day. One thing I realized was like in season 1 of quarantine, we had kind of a chance to get away from this job in a way. Like we weren't in the office every single day anymore. Filming was very different. So I had a chance to like appreciate my outside of work life, like my me time and my self-care. I had a chance to like, where that kind of was more important in a way because I was around and by myself more. So I had a chance to understand, like, because before that, and like even as we've gotten back into working, I've already been overextending myself work-wise. But in that time, I realized like, okay, I was giving an unfair amount of my life to work because where we're from, like working, they want everyone to just work. Like Damien, you have 3 jobs. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. I kudos, like mad kudos, because I literally get invited to be a guest on people's podcasts, and I'm like, I can't. That's like I don't have the capacity to do that right now. But like I think once I got that chance to appreciate the outside of work stuff, like because like you do want to do your best job at work, but sometimes we really do push ourselves too hard. So understanding that can really help you.
I think going off of that though, I think the reason I'm like this, if I can just get personal for a second, is like I after So Random, that money runs out quickly in LA. And so I worked all kinds of jobs, and I would still audition, and I wouldn't book anything. And, you'd put in so much work and so much work and so much work, and you wouldn't really get anything for it necessarily. It'd just be like, all right, well, on to the next one, next step, I'll try another audition. Same was for voiceover. I'd have bookings here and there, but it, wouldn't fully pay the bills or anything like that. And so for so long, I worked so hard and didn't get anything for it, that now that I'm in a position where, the harder I work, the longer I work, I get stuff out of it. It's hard not to take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. Even now, I acknowledge like I need to take a break sometimes. It's just hard to do,
I think it is part of a bigger thing, and obviously it comes down to personal levels too. I mean, I'm a workaholic, but I think more so I just have work anxiety. I have this. Even if I'm not working all day, I have this idea that I need to be working.
Mm-hmm. Career
It's
anxiety.
literally probably the main thing I talk about with my therapist, is just that I always have this thing in the back of my head of being like, how am I being productive right now? And it's just so destructive. It's so destructive, and it actually has prevented me from getting a lot of things done. And throughout all of quarantine, I've just wanted, all I've really wanted is to write something. Like I wanted to write some sort of project, and really just for me. Like not even, I don't have this big goal of like selling a TV show or whatever. I'm like, I would just love to write a story. It'd be fun because I have this ever-present thing in the back of my head being like, you need to do that. You haven't done that. You need to do that. It makes it this awful thing that I then avoid. The things that are self-care, the entertainment, whatever, it all doesn't become entertainment. It becomes distraction from those thoughts.
Yeah.
And then you're never relaxing because you're just distracting yourself. I think a lot of us get self-care. This is my opinion. I think a lot of us get self-care wrong, and at least I do, is that I have to recognize when my me time or whatever is me just distracting myself, and then it doesn't do anything. Then I go, then it's 3 hours and I just come back to where I was, as opposed to sometimes self-care is work. It is, a self-care thing I've been trying to do this year that I've been not great at is I'm just going to stretch every day. But it is work because you've got to kind of like focus for
And
20
take the
minutes
time
and stretch. But that is self-care. You're doing something good for yourself. And a lot of times it is those grounding things.
Yeah, being present.
But I think part of the bigger issue is I do think in the world, but especially in America, we really have this grind culture. And honestly, I look back on when I was a kid, I remember posters everywhere, and I'm sure they're still out there. It's just like, shoot for the moon. You can be whatever you want. Like, be the best that you can be.
I guarantee you everyone in this classroom will be president.
Yes, literally, like you would hear that stuff. It's like, you can be president if you want to. And then you get older and you start to see people getting really sick, and especially on social media, especially Instagram, I think, where people really pump out like, I'm in Spain now. Everyone needs to travel. Oh, I just got promoted, and oh man, just bought my first house. And it's just like, there's this idea that you need to be achieving more, and it's always going to be that. And once you achieve more, it's the idea persists. You need to be achieving more. And it's this idea that happiness is in that next thing. And that's always the case. You never can be content. America, and I think the world, has this war on the idea of contentment. We hate that idea of being content, of being happy with very little, or being happy with less, and just being like, oh, what's your dream in life? Oh, I would just like to have a small house and just like that. And be like, really? That's it? Like, you're just going to settle? The idea of settling is so bad, but it's like, no, that's okay. I think a lot of us feel very uncontent with life because we're like, I don't know what I want, because we've set our goals beyond what we want. And now we're lost.
It's not even a tangible thing to point to and be like, I want that amazing thing. It's like, I want something past that and then past that. Like you said, you can't.
It's this
It's
endless
also
thing.
feeling conflicted with like what society around you has said, what you should look toward and want. On the self-care tip, it's like, it is like taking care of, it's like, self-care is a lot like car care. You aren't just going to be nice to your car and just be with it. Like, you need to put the work in, change the oil, do the things. So like self-care is like, you need to, maybe if you want to practice self-care, is giving yourself better sleep. Go to bed early and wake up
I've been trying.
earlier.
I've actively this week trying really hard.
But then in those moments where like a lot of people think is like self-care days, like a face mask and like just dressing comfy and stuff, like
Watching TV for 8 hours.
Yeah. No, that's the thing too, is like, I think, okay, this will be my me time to do whatever I want. And then I'm like, okay, video games, drawing, I could work on that script I was doing, or I can play Sims. I never use that computer. And then I get overwhelmed, and then I'm on TikTok for 3 hours because I just can't do anything
Distract
else.
yourself because it's too much.
Yeah, because that's a very normal thing for people with anxiety to do is like they get overwhelmed and they just want to withdraw and be numb for a while.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to self-care, even in your normal schedule, it's just being more present in those moments. Like when you're in the shower, don't always just be like, okay, I got to do this fucking thing. Like be in there for a moment, appreciate the warmth of the water, think about your day or about the people in your life that you haven't talked about in a while.
I learned that from Jonathan Van Ness.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just being more present in those moments where you are just doing things for yourself. Like, and making those chores and things more enjoyable by doing other, like we were talking about earlier, like listening to a podcast that you like while doing dishes. But yeah, it's self-work.
We've been made to feel guilty for slowing down. I think that's a big thing is we feel uncomfortable slowing down, but it's so important to slow down. Slow down. Anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed, just be like, I'm allowed to slow down.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to stop right now.
We are on 5 times speed from what people were doing decades ago.
Yeah.
That is the thing, though, too. Like when you look at parents or older generations on how they work their asses off to get to a place that was just sort of sustainable for a lot of people. And now, due to technology, due to opportunities, due to a lot of different things, you can get to that point sometimes a little bit easier. So then you don't have an example of how to relax and decompress. You don't have an ability to look around and be like, oh, I'm kind of maintaining in the same way they were already, and I can do more, so I should do more. Like
people had no choice but to just sit around a lot back in the day. Like we have this idea, and it's true. There was a lot of work back then. There was nonstop work, and there was less things to entertain us, but also these things that entertain us are often making us feel worse because it's so much. Our brains aren't built. Our brains were not built for all this stuff because naturally there just wasn't as much stimulation throughout a day. You worked on the farm and then you came back and you like made dinner and you sat there and then it was like, yep.
Yeah.
All right.
The last thing I'll say is I did have a moment. I can't remember if it was just before quarantine or just around earlier this year where I was breaking down. I was losing my mind because I was very conflicted. I'd recently lost a family member. I was feeling overextended at work, and I didn't know how to take care of myself while trying to figure out all these things. Like I wasn't okay, basically. And I've learned this from you, Shane, as well. It's like taking my notebook out. I'm addicted to notebooks. I have a notebook for everything. I have a work one. I have a music lyric one. Like literally,
you write someone's name in one and they die 60 seconds later.
But I had a page for work and a page for family and a page for my hobbies, and like I just wrote out all the things that are important to me in my life, and like just prioritizing what is really important to you. Like how important is it that you are on social media for a few hours a day? Like there are things that you can really realistically tell yourself are more important than others, and like the things that stress you out, you can write those out, and like just seeing them on paper can really help you kind of process what you need.
Yeah.
So
I think all of these in many ways boil down to just really accepting yourself and being okay. Like you're human. You don't have to be something crazy. You don't, like, everyone in the world is trying to, or so many people are trying to be the greatest that they can be. It's like, no, you don't have to be. You don't have to be anything. You get to be whatever you want and do whatever you want. And often the problem is that it's less than what everyone's telling you and what you're trying to tell yourself. You're trying to be something more than you even want to be. And that's a nightmare because that means you're always going to be in this conflicting zone and uncomfortable with who you are, and you're uncomfortable with what you want because you feel like what you want is too little, and that makes you pathetic or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm talking to myself in a lot of ways, but I think it is the case for a lot of people. And I think, social media and just the chaos of the world has made it so. But as we're seeing, I mean, this is dark, but as we're seeing with global warming, our desire to keep being more and more and be as great as possible is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
It's dysfunctional. You feel it in your own, you have your own global warming inside your head when you try to do too much and you overexhaust your own mental resources, and then you break down, and then it's all pointless. It all ended up being for nothing. And we have it in our head. It's like, that's what we have to do. That's for the best. It's like, no, it's clearly not.
In this metaphor, what would you consider colonizing Mars? Is that when I swap to a robot?
But yeah, it's like you can't pedal to the metal with a car 24/7.
But speaking of nature, and this is gonna make me sound weird, but a type of meditation I
grabbed a bird out of the sky, not even looking. Is that weird?
Go. Carry on my wayward son, and I threw him off. I don't meditate regularly. I try to get into it. Sometimes I fall out. I think it's really great. Whenever I've done it, I feel benefits. But I have had this like accidental meditation, I think, throughout my life. Whenever I'll be at the park or I'll just be around, if I see like an animal or even a bug or something, oftentimes animals are just chilling. They're just sitting there. If they're not eating food or doing whatever, they're often just sitting there. And I'll often just like kind of sit and just stare at them and just be like, you're just sitting here, huh? I was like, you're just doing that. And I can't do that. Why am I so uncomfortable doing that? But that's what animals are doing so often. That's probably what we were doing for so long. Is
I don't know. I think they're plotting.
I will say pigeons are so busy.
They really are.
They are so busy.
They are up to something.
Pigeons are busy. We should make a shirt that says pigeons are very busy.
Dude, I love pigeons. Have I shown you Battle Pigeon?
Yes, you have.
Today, though.
Isn't it your banner on Twitter?
It's when I do my webcam introduction, yes, it is my background. I have a green screen for the sole purpose of putting Battle Pigeon behind me. And I just am like, what's that, Battle Pigeon?
Oh my God.
I kind of want to hear your mishaps when you guys learned about even just basic adulting things, doing the dishes, making your bed, cleaning your own first apartment, having roommates, and like what it meant to actually do stuff like that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, you're going to inevitably mess up. I think that's important. I think that's where you learn the most.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was interesting to see what my priorities would be when I before I even was roommates with Shane, I just had like a 1-bedroom apartment. And for whatever reason, it was really cheap. Someone may have died there. I don't know. But it was really cheap. It had a washer dryer in it and it was awesome. It was everything I needed. But I learned that my priorities were very low. Like I had an air mattress for a long time. And then
you were like the meme.
I was like the meme, and yeah, literally like that. But I had a TV and a place to put it. But instead, after I got the air mattress, or after I switched to like a proper mattress with a box spring, that was also just straight up on the ground for a while.
Oh my gosh.
I just didn't care. I was like, this doesn't matter that much to me. It was, to be completely frank with you, it was only when it was like, oh, a girl might come over to your apartment next week that I was like, I should buy a bed frame and yada, yada, yada. Like, it was like, but it just, boiling it down, it's like company of any kind. Like, when someone else might see the state you're living in, that's when I would actually start to self-care and be like, yeah, I could hang up a mirror. Yeah, I could put up some art there and maybe buy a plate or two,
I think, a lot of it is just, for me, it's a lot of those slow things that you kind of like push off. I've gotten much better about cleaning. I was not great when I first became an adult. I would just hold it off and then it would just get bad. And then you just start to realize like, oh, if I just start doing these little things every day, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Same with car maintenance and stuff like that.
Do you want to hear what my first night living outside my parents' house was like?
What?
So I obviously moved in with a coworker. They weren't home when I had moved in. I was by myself. My room didn't have lights in the ceiling. I just had lamps that one of them was very flickery and it was very dark. I remember I walked to the nearby grocery store because I had no food and I didn't want to touch my roommate's food because it was their food. Got like a salad box. I was also trying to be vegan at this point, so I was struggling with that. Got back to the place. I didn't have my own dishes, so I was like scared to use the roommate's dishes. I was like, I didn't buy them. And I remember I was gonna maybe just eat it out of the salad container, but there was holes in it. I was like, I don't know. And I remember I tried popping the salad box open and all the leaves went everywhere, all over the ground. And I was like, this is my food. Gathered up this kitchen floor salad. It was dirty. Yeah. I rinsed it, kind of, and I still ate kitchen floor, hairy ass
that was probably not vegan.
There's more skin cells and hair in that salad than croutons.
Burger King foot lettuce.
Yeah, that was rough. It was where you're just scrambling. I felt like a rat in an alley, just like, hey, I gotta figure it out. First time doing community laundry, like the complex laundry. There's there's etiquette to that as well. Like, you do not want to leave your laundry in too long after it's done, because I had a man handle my laundry and touch my underwear and just take it out, and so he could get in. And I was pissed. I've never done that to somebody else.
How long, just out of curiosity, how long was your stuff in there?
Like 10 minutes. Immediate?
Okay. That's fair. Like, don't touch someone's laundry after 10 minutes.
Give a grace.
It's gotta be like an hour. It's gotta be like, I'm like, this is not coming out today.
The place I lived 2 times ago, we had community laundry. There was one lady down the hall that would like, she left her stuff in there for like literal hours. And when my roommate finally like moved it, she in retaliation, like threw his stuff out of the washer and like left a note. And was like, don't you do that. And it was like, well, you live in a society. Like you can't do this stuff
It's
to us.
tough. It's
Like, yeah.
tough. Like I definitely think you should give a grace, but there is a level of
10
discomfort.
minutes is fine. 30 minutes is fine.
Yeah.
hours,
Laundry is a tough.
Yeah.
Laundry is surprisingly easy, but man, it feels like this big mountain you got to climb when you become an adult.
Yeah.
It's very much, it's capitalism personified, where it's like only 2 people get the thing
Yeah.
and everybody else has to wait.
I'm telling you, if you're a teenager listening to this, just learn how to do the laundry before you move out. You're gonna have to learn it. Just do it because you're gonna realize it's not that hard, and then you're like, oh, okay.
And when in doubt, wash everything on cold if you're ever worried
Yeah,
about
that's what I do.
colors and things like that. Usually I try and make separate loads of all my dark clothing, all my pink, light
I
pink
hang dry
stuff.
most things.
I can't hang dry. I like, especially when it's clothes that I want to be form fitting. I pretty much
Yeah.
dry everything.
How do you not get the little doodly doots on the shoulders for the hanger?
I don't know.
Good tip.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like becoming an adult, living on your own when you're just in charge of yourself, you're just gonna build up reflexes and just muscle memories off of mistakes. Like, I remember, man, I was like 19, and I was on my computer. I had one of those white MacBooks back in the day. You know, they're just the like
yeah. They look like toys.
and I had it on my coffee table. I had some root beer right next to it, and I
I bet
totally
I know where this is going.
and I totally just spilled root beer all over the keyboard, and it was broken. What did you think was gonna happen?
I thought it was gonna come to life and say mean words at you.
Yeah. And you know what? Since then, I'm just I don't keep drinks that close to my laptop. Like, it's just, you're just gonna build up things like that.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
a-
just what it is.
It's a lot of those things that your parents scolded you for preemptively and you never really understood why. It's those reasons.
You're just gonna have to. It's just gonna have to happen.
I had that happen to me like a month ago where, you know, my mom was always like, cut things down on a cutting board and never lift it up. And I'm like, Mom, it's flat. I don't know what to do. And like now here, a long time later, I like sliced my thumb clean open. I was like, oh, this is what she meant with I need to go to the
It
hospital.
always, it's always how it goes.
I will say, like, big picture wise, a lot of things, like adult things, like when it comes to going grocery shopping or going to the post office to get stamps or like those phone calls and things like that, a lot of them, cooking, like adult tasks, like certain types of cleaning the shower or bathtub, like, or the toilet or whatever, like they seem scarier and like these big tasks that you're afraid to tackle. And like, but once you do them, you really realize they're not all that bad. Like my first time going to a post office and needing to send a package, I literally felt like a robot. I was like in line, like getting a vibe of the room and what other people are doing and like how everyone's acting, getting a vibe of the people at the register. Like, oh, is this going to be DMV style or like a freaking like Hollister? We don't know. I go to the counter, I'm like, hello, I would like to send this package to Utah, please. She's like, yeah, like whatever. And then once you get in, you're like, oh, this is like not that bad. This isn't weird.
Yeah.
Like it's fine.
You have patience.
They're just like, what? And
You're
you're
like,
like, I want to.
you want to do what?
what?
I want to send this package to
Get her.
Utah. Why? Because
You can, but first you must defeat the Minotaur.
Like, ma'am, how loud is the package? How loud is the package, ma'am? Like, I don't know what that means.
God, yeah, I think that's true. I think a lot of things are easier. When it comes to those mundane tasks, a lot of them are easier than you think.
Yeah, like ordering Postmates seemed so weird to me at first, but once you get into it, you're like, oh, this is easy. I'm going to do this every
And learning how to
fucking day.
cook easier than it seems.
Learning
Especially
to
if you
cook-
swear to
Trader
God,
Joe's.
I swear to God, learning how to cook.
You
no,
will make mistakes, but
I'm telling you, man. Yes, you will make mistakes, but you follow recipes. There's so much. That's where you take advantage of technology.
And it's not as hard as
Google
I
stuff.
thought.
It's not, man. Especially like I love that one TikTok where it's that guy talking about. He's like, here's the authentic way to make rice, and he just has a rice cooker.
Yeah.
it's like, dude, it's so
That's
simple.
or literally buy a crock pot. If you don't know how to cook, buy a
Oh,
crock pot.
dude.
You can just throw anything you want in there. It doesn't even have to be food. It'll come out food.
I think
It's-
and we had an extra question down here that we didn't get to. It was just talking about how to eat healthy without
Crock-pot.
And like, there are a lot of ways that you just can make things conveniently, but learning how to cook for yourself is just a quintessential skill.
Yeah,
and you
and
will save
TikTok
money.
has helped
you
a
will
lot with
save
that.
money. You will save money. There's cheap ways to make a lot of stuff and make it good.
Especially
it takes
if you go to
time.
Trader Joe's.
It takes time. It just takes learning recipes and just
Yeah.
doing it, but keep it simple.
I just took a crack at making fried rice the other night and it was
Yum.
bomb.
I keep things simple. I saute chicken breasts, I make some vegetables, and I have some quinoa. And I make that like 80% of the time.
Nice.
It's
you
always
use that
great.
rice cooker for the quinoa?
I do use the rice cooker. I use the rice cooker almost every night.
The nature's candy for eating healthy and also feeling savory, sweet potato. You stab it a few times with a fork, wrap it in like a slightly damp paper towel, toss it in the microwave for like 7 minutes, pop it out. Don't coat it in sugar, coat it in things that are like spice-based, like maybe a little bit of a Hatch green chili or something like a chipotle pepper. Mix it all up in its own skin. It's delicious. It's smoky. It's almost meaty. It's
Spices are your friend, man. You can make everything delicious. I think it's good news. I do think society puts pressure on you that this idea that you need to be achieving so much more at a younger age and everything. And it's okay. It's okay to slow down. Be patient. Know you're going to make mistakes and know that's okay. And just do things. If something's going to take less than 5 minutes, just do it now.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. It's those small things and you just do it and trust yourself. Know that you're going to do it. And maybe you're not the person who's capable of doing a lot of things, but you're going to become that person by doing, like just learning.
A lot of those tasks aren't as big a deal. Calling to schedule an appointment, doing the laundry, registering to vote by mail or in person, either way. These things take a few minutes out of your day, and we dread them for hours sometimes when it's over in just a few moments.
The thoughts are always worse than the thing.
Don't beat yourself up for not knowing something yet. You have to learn it somehow. And sometimes it's okay if you stumble in the process. That is all right. If you don't know how to do something, and I know this sounds obvious, Google it. Google everything. I can't tell you how many times, like in my very early 20s, I would just Google something and then know it forever. Then a friend would be like, oh, I've got red wine and this kind of shoe. And I'd be like, oh, you pour this on it. And they'd be like, how'd you know? And I'm like, I ran into that problem and I Googled it. It's
Just research stuff.
Just do it.
Yeah, research things and know that everybody else is in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
Know that. Everyone's going to make it seem like they've got things figured out. They
Everyone is faking it till they make it.
Yeah, and maybe someone has something figured out, but you have something figured out that they don't.
Yeah.
It's a trust me, you're not alone. People are going to make it seem like that's not the case, but you're not alone. Everyone's learning forever. Anyways, so that concludes that, but let's get on to we've got a shoot dude here.
Yeah, shoot dude.
We've got someone who's already, they probably learned a lesson from this, I'm guessing. I have not read this, so it's a surprise for me as well.
I love that.
But let's get into this.
Shoot, dude. Shoot, dude.
Shoot, dude.
Shoot, dude. Shoot, dude.
I don't know who this comes from. It doesn't say.
There was no name on it.
Ooh, anonymous.
So this is an anonymous.
Bet it's a lie.
Anonymous
favorite
shoot
kind.
dude. I was visiting family in LA before the world shut down around February, and I was near Santa Monica walking around waiting for a friend to pick me up after strolling around. She got stuck in traffic. Classic. And I decided to go buy something to drink and wait at a coffee shop in the meanwhile. Here I am walking down the street looking like a flaming dumpster truck from hell, and on the opposite sidewalk I see either Shane or his literal doppelganger. I was staring very hard trying to distinguish whether it was just another white dude or him. And he obviously noticed and actually smiled at me politely, which made me incredibly nervous and caused disaster to strike. I wasn't looking at where I was going, and let's say theoretically that I may or may not have tripped and eaten absolute against the asphalt. Thankfully, my hands got to the floor before my face did, but I destroyed my knees and my palms completely. Regardless of whether or not it was Shane, I still embarrassed myself entirely in front of a handsome stranger, and I'm still not sure if he saw me wipe out, because as soon as I got up, I just sprinted my ass away. A part of me hopes he at least got a laugh out of my shame if he saw.
Oh my God.
Well, this is, I do not recall. I've recalled watching people eat shit.
You've never been to Santa Monica.
Yeah, I was going to say, in February, Santa Monica
were you
in
walking
February?
in Santa Monica?
It's possible. I don't know. It's
February we were on tour, and then in Australia. Like that was all happening at that same time.
Australia was March.
Yeah, but we were on
Australia
tour
was
right
early
before
March,
that.
February.
For a week.
You would use your little bit of time in LA to go to Santa Monica, Shane?
No, that
one
was the
goes.
thing, because we did tour and then we went right into the hell week. that
I
was
know, but
production.
sometime look, it probably wasn't me because I don't recall this.
Yeah.
I also typically I don't make much eye contact with strangers. I'm very like shy and whatever. But
You don't even make eye contact in the office. If an intern makes eye contact with you, they get fired.
yes, you're not allowed to look at me. No, I'm very sorry. That sounds
That sucks.
rough.
That sounds like that one story where you and Keith watched that girl fall.
So
and
yeah,
she ran away.
me, Noah, and Keith were at a restaurant in Beverly Hills, and a lady. Oh man,
You told this
she
story
ate.
on here, so
Yeah.
they do have it.
I
on
know,
log.
but I can say it again. She ate.
She ran away right afterwards?
She ate incredible shit, and she got up and she kind of
She, like, hustled away.
hustled away, and Keith immediately was laughing.
I don't know if I believe you. I don't know if I believe the shoot dude this time.
You don't
You don't
believe it? You think
believe
it's
it?
sus?
I don't think it's not that crazy, and that's why I think it is like, I don't know, it almost reads a little bit like WordPress, like the time I met Shane, and if you just sort of change it to maybe it was him. I don't know. I feel like I'm always such a pessimist on these.
No,
maybe I
it's
don't need to
possible.
say that.
I
It's
will
possible.
say falling in front of your faves is embarrassing. I would say that's a shoot, dude. If I had eaten that day that when I was like super obsessed with Chris Pratt, if I had eaten on that stage, that would have sucked.
I believe it, and I believe it all happened probably a lot faster than this makes it seem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's making it seem like, oh, we made eye contact and we had a moment, and then she tripped and fell. I think it was probably just like, wait, is that her? Oh, and then like fell. Like I
Yeah,
think it was
like,
probably
probably
all.
very
I think it
quick.
all probably happened within 2 seconds.
Sometimes those moments happen in slow motion.
Yeah.
But enough time to register across the street, and they smiled across the street, and then they fell, and then you didn't notice. I don't know.
Oh wow, Damien thinks it's sus.
I'm just saying. I always think it's a little.
I don't know
sus.
if there's enough
Sus
information
boy.
here for me to. It doesn't. There's not enough information. It's not like the one where the guy was going through his friend's mom's underwear drawer.
Yeah, that
where
one
I'm
was
like,
definitely- I was like,
I'm
you're
like,
not-
this is weird.
that's weird.
This is too like. This is a very believable situation. I think
Too believable.
making eye contact
I
with
think-
someone and then falling.
Yeah.
is very believable.
I think if I was out trying to have a nice day by myself and I ate in front of a bunch of people I didn't know, I'd probably be traumatized and never want to go out by myself ever again. So
Whoever you are, anonymous person, you made eye contact with what it sounds like to be an average white dude.
Dude, that was Tom Cruise,
I
dude.
could probably be any white guy. Like, let's be honest, especially from across the street. Any white dude
I
could be
too am
me.
Shane.
I have the ability to become any white guy. That's
Yeah.
my.
You're the
X-Men.
worst X-Men.
That's my X-Men ability. Is just
I
become
get
any white
tweeted
guy.
like, "Oh, this person Courtney looks just like this one actress," and it'll be a picture of some commercial actress, and I'm like, "This person looks nothing like me."
I don't think
But
I've
okay.
I don't think I've ever gotten a tweet where it's like, "Did you know you look like this person?" and had it not be like a little offensive. Like it's always like some like kind of like doughy, dumpy dude in the background of a shot, like that's not even making
Oh my God.
and I'm like, "It's you," and I'm like, "Thanks,
thanks, man.
appreciate it."
I look like when you just get the general settings for an Imperial on Skyrim. Just like, yeah, it's just there. Anyways, thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
hope you learned something.
If you have a shoot dude to submit to the Smoshcast, we have an email you can send them to. It's shootdude@smosh.com. That's SHOOTDOOD Smosh.com.
Send us your shoot dudes.
It can be anonymous or put your name there. Any
Exactly.
silly, embarrassing story. We don't want to scare people with like if you have some serious traumatic.
We don't want
stuff, I'm
traumatic. We
sorry.
want embarrassing. We want.
Yeah.
It needs to be. I think the perfect shoot, dude. And I've said this before. Is you? It's a perfect Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm type of situation where you did something and you got yourself into a bad situation, or you embarrassed yourself, and you're going, shoot, dude. Like, I think it has to be your fault. I think it has to be your fault.
I don't know. I feel like just definitely embarrassing stuff. I'm down to
Yeah.
hear it all.
Yeah.
But anyways,
and I'm
whatever.
gonna call you a liar no matter what.
Send it to us. Even if you're not sure, send it to us. You know, we might put it on.
We love it.
Anyways, and guys, the audio version of this podcast comes out on Wednesdays. You know that because you're listening to it. But also the video comes out on Fridays on the Smoshcast YouTube channel. So check it out so you can
sub.
see our faces because we do all sorts of crazy physical stuff. While you're listening to this, we're dancing while we're talking.
What's your face look like?
I'm twerking on the table right now.
That's true.
And make sure to rate this podcast 5 stars. That just helps. It helps us. It gives us serotonin.
Sarah's been looking good lately. Oh, serotonin.
Serotonin. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you later.
Love you.
Goodbye.
I will miss you.
I
My
will.
power.